Message today, and I literally wrote this last week. Because of all the garbage going on in the world, because I believe we're closer than we ever been before to the end times, because the Jerusalem and things are falling into place. I titled my message, "The End is Closer Today Than It Was Yesterday." And what do I mean by the end? Destruction, famine, all the garbage that goes on. We've been studying a lot on Wednesday night, the end times. So we're going to start with, and I got written here on my page, Matthew 24, and I don't know why. I don't know if that's my writing, but I don't know why I wrote it. We'll start with slide number 1. The end started over 2,000 years ago. Now that's something that you really don't think about too much. But the end started when Christ came onto the scene. It might even started even before then, Ron, when creation, like we talked about in Sunday school this morning, how the fall happened and God knew what was going on. But I know for a fact, and most scholars agree, that it started over 2,000 years ago. And I know that for a fact. And I know that it's closer today than it was yesterday. 1 Timothy 3:1 says, "But realize this, in the last days, difficult times will come." Now, we automatically think of the last days as what we are in right now. But we can't think of it like that, especially if it started 2,000 years ago. We can't think, well, it's getting so bad, the last days have got to be here. But if it started 2,000 years ago, we're wrong. We can just say it's closer now. In the last days refers to the time after the first coming of Jesus Christ, and even includes his crucifixion. Even religious people didn't believe Jesus was the Messiah. Now think about that. Even today, I brought up some things that I heard John MacArthur say last night about how even evangelical Christians do not believe the Word of God. They don't believe that Jesus is the only way. Evangelical Christians, the heartbeat, I might say, of the Christian faith. Because I believe the evangelical Christians, old evangelical Christians, have more of it right than any other group of people. And that doesn't just include Baptists. It includes Baptists and some Presbyterian and some Methodists and some this and some that. I'm not trying to lock it in that I'm the only one right, because I'm not. I make mistakes too. We all make mistakes. But I believe I've got most of it right. Huh?
Don't say Church of Christ.
Well, some Church of Christ have got it right, Jim. Not all, but some do. Okay? There are factions in every group, every denominational group, Christian denominational group, that have parts of it, have it right. But what happens is the ones that have it wrong, like the evangelical church group, there's more of them that have it wrong today than had it wrong 30, 40 years ago. That's how far Christianity, denomination, or whatever you want to call it, has turned their back on God. Because they've started writing their own Bible. They've started writing their own theology. They've started writing their own garbage into what they believe. And like I said, even the religious people didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah. 1 Timothy 4:1 says, "But the Spirit explicitly says that in latter times some will fall away from their faith, paying attention to deceitful, spiritual, and doctrines of demons." That's in the New Testament. Written 2,000 years ago, I'd say, thereabout. See, and they're saying, paying attention to deceitful spirits and doctrines of demons. That's what's in the church today. In some churches, we don't recognize this book as the only thing, the only way. We don't recognize it, the only truth. There are groups out there that add many more books. There are other churches out there that tear this page out because it's incorrect, or tear this page out because it's incorrect, because they don't agree with it. Just because they don't agree with it does not make it not right. Paying attention to deceitful spirits and doctrines. Difficult times will come. Difficult is used to describe the nature of demon-possessed or demon possession. References Matthew 8:28. 2 men were demon-possessed and met him. Who were those two people? The two demons. Who did they meet? They met Jesus. And they were extremely violent, and no one could pass them. The times. Times here is represented not as a time in history, rather than not a time in history. It is a time in history rather than a clock or a calendar. What was that time of history? It started at the crucifixion. It started way back. That time in history started with difficult times with Jesus. If it wasn't difficult then, why did they crucify Jesus? Why did they get rid of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords? Because they didn't agree with him. Things will become savage, dangerous, and will increase as the return of Christ draws nearer and nearer. 2 Timothy 3:13 says, "But evil men and impostors will proceed from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived." The church age knows this, but it suddenly appears and comes on the scene and builds as the end gets closer. See, it started way back, but it's getting closer and closer. And are we recognizing things in history? Are we recognizing things that are happening right now? Especially with Jerusalem, the fight in Jerusalem, and all those things are falling into place. Matthew 7:15 says, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing," preachers, Christians, or so-called Christians, rabbis, whatever you want to call them, "but inwardly are ravish wolves." And I put here as a question on that first couple of verses. Are we recognizing some of this today? I know Sam shook her head, yes. I'm seeing it over and over and over. People, what was one of the things our government did? What's one of the things our government did? They shut down churches, right? Do you know that there are very, very, very few churches that have the attendance, I'm not going to say membership, but the attendance in their churches today as they had before COVID? They're sitting at home watching it on TV, where they can go get the whatever they want to out of the refrigerator, where they can eat breakfast. They can do whatever they want to while the preacher's going on. I see it. I watch a couple of church programs every week. And then there's fights in the church about this and this and this. How many people are on our roll? Why ain't we making budget? Well, we're going to have to cut things out of the church because we can't make budget. And I'm against that. But that's another story. The next slide. Things that will surely come to pass. And that's 2 Timothy 3, 2 through 4. For men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, malicious gossips, without self-control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Now, every one of those lists you can see happening in the world today. Lovers of self. They're stuck on themselves. I'm the one that's important. You're not important. Just me. I'm the one important. Unholy. Sinful. Not showing for respect for God or religion. They bomb churches. They bomb pregnancy, crisis pregnancy centers, abortion-free centers. They bomb anybody that they don't agree with. They threaten them. Unholy. Lovers of money. How much is enough money anymore? Why? How many people do you know that don't come to church because they work? Not because they have to work, but they got to make that one more dollar. They're getting that overtime. They're getting that double time. Not that they're forced to, but they work because money. Not only are they working because of money, they're working because they are so far in debt that they can't see their way out of it. Lovers of money rather than lovers of God. How much is enough money? The richest man in the world, I preached this message about 9 years ago. I preached a message about money, and I wasn't asking for money. But I brought out the fact that the richest man in the world 50 years ago was asked point blank, how much, Mark's got it, how much is enough money? $1 more. Just $1 more. $1 more. $1 more. $1 more. Well, a dollar don't buy much anymore, so that's probably another 100. But you understand what I'm saying? We love the money. Unloving. No heart. Cannot or expect love. Do we know people like that? People that don't love anybody? Don't even love their kids. I know people that don't even love their kids. I know more kids that don't love their parents. Think about it. Boastful. I'm the best. Can't nobody do it like, we've all run into those, hadn't we? Can't nobody do it like I can do it. I've been doing this so long. I'm the best at the field. Nobody can compete with me. Irreconcilable. You can't forgive. Something happened 100 years ago and you hadn't forgiven them. You just can't forgive. Are you laughing at Jim when I said 100 years ago, Villette? She was, Jim.
No, I wasn't.
Somebody was sneaking up on me.
Arrogant, cocky, and confident. Now, there's nothing wrong with confidence. But when your confidence becomes arrogant, it's not right. No self-control. They live on their impulses. They just live to do what they want to do. Disobedient. They are their own boss. Well, he ain't going to tell me what to do. I'm a man. I've heard that in my lifetime. Fortunately, I've never used it, but I've heard it. They'll stand right up to the boss and say, "You ain't going to tell me what to do. I'm my own man." Brutal, cruel, no heart. Have you paid attention to the news, how brutal people have become in the news, where they just kill somebody for no reason? Kill innocent babies, behead them, rape and then kill a woman. And if she's pregnant, rape and kill her and cut the baby out and set it on fire. That is brutal. That's talking about the end times. Ungrateful. You don't appreciate nothing. Somebody give you $1,000, you'd wonder why they didn't give you $2. Do you know people like that? I've had people work for me that like that. You pay them more than they were worth and wondering why you wasn't paying them more. Or, not only that, well, the government owes it to me. They used to get to me more than anything else. The government doesn't owe you anything. The government put themselves in that situation. Do what?
So the government owes you to be honest.
I can't hear you, but okay. I lost my place. Unappreciative, haters of God, anti-God, treacherous, reckless, no regard for life, conceited, I'm better than you. Did I lose my place? Lovers of pleasure, not God. Lustful greed, never satisfied. Do you know people that are never satisfied? That's back to that guy with one more dollar. Never, ever, ever satisfied. All these scriptures are similar to how Christ was tested. You know, probably, and I believe all, Christ was tested by every one of these individuals. During his beatings, during his mockings, during his crucifixion, even after he rose from the dead. Even today, he's still mocked and made fun of, not appreciated. It happens. And you know what's unfortunate? Sometimes it even happens in the church. Think of that one. Some of the language that's used by Christians. Some of the language that's even used in the church sometime that's disrespectful, is ungodly. But yet we just let it go by. Ron looked at Deb. Deb looked at Ron. I said that this morning in the first service. I told my wife that she was cussing. And she says, "No, I'm not." I said, "Ask Ron." Well, guess what Ron said? "Yeah, Deb, you're cussing." Right? See, it becomes so natural sometimes that we mess up. Matthew 7:21 and 22. Not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father, who is in heaven, will enter. Many will say to me on that day, "Lord, Lord, Did I not prophesy in your name? And in your name cast out demons? And in your name perform many miracles? And I left this verse out. But the end of that verse says, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. What was he saying? You were just doing it for show. You were just trying to make a name for yourself. You never accepted me. You were doing it for money. I know a bunch of them that do it for money. Think about it. Depart from me, I never knew you. Next slide. Playing Jesus or just lukewarm. You know what God's Word says about that. 2 Timothy 3:5. Holding a form of godliness, although they have denied its power, avoid such men as these. Holding a form of godliness. Godlessness. Just say good. I said godliness. I meant to say godlessness. Revelations 3:15 through 17. I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. Because you say, I am rich and I've become wealthy and I have need of nothing. All those things I just talked about just a few minutes ago. And you do not know that you're wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. This, hopefully not us, but I can include us because I've been in that boat since I've become a Christian. This refers to what our life sometimes represents. Has everybody lived that perfect Christian life since they became a Christian? I don't see any heads going up. I see them all going this way. None of us have. None of us have lived that perfect life. This refers to what our life sometimes represents as we fall into that path, that habit, that whatever, of not serving God the way that God calls us to serve Him. And it's more important as the time gets closer. Because if you're on the fence and things go wrong, you'll be one of the first ones to take the mark of the beast when your family don't get fed. You'll be one of the first ones to surrender. What about if the bank's closed? I keep hearing every day. I read something. I was going to give it to Ron. I read something every day about the banks closing on December the 13th now. They moved it from November the 2nd to November the 14th. Now it's December something. They move it every day, every day. They say the banks are going to close. We're going to go to cryptocurrency or whatever that new garbage is. What happens if we lose all our money? Are you still going to serve God? Think about it. It's a tough question. Where are you at in your heart? Denied His power. False prophets, false teachers, and their followers, even sometimes in solid Christian churches, only concerned with the facade or the image they can present. Look at me. I wrote this down. I think that's my phone. I turned it off. It's down there. Maybe it doesn't bother anybody but me. I wrote this down. I remember this from when I was 7 or 8 years old. Think about that. How can you remember? That's one thing I can remember from all the way back when I was a kid. My dad sold insurance. And my dad was told to join Bellevue Baptist Church. Why? It was the biggest church at the time, and still is today, in Memphis, Tennessee. He was told to join that for his insurance prospects. If you got more people that you see every week, you got more prospects. Think about it. So join the church so you can have more prospects to make more money. Oh, but it's okay if you make more money because you can give it back to the church. That was another thing they always said. I was told later in life that I was supposed to work 60 hours a week to provide for my family, and church was second. That's not true either. When I started going to Bellevue years and years later, within a month, I was approached by an insurance agent within 1 month of joining the church. Actually, I was approached by 3 different ones. When I left Bellevue Baptist Church and moved to Georgia, we only had 1 insurance agent in that church, and I was approached almost immediately to get insurance. Now, I'm not saying these people are ungodly. I'm not saying these people are wrong. They have to make a living like I do. But see the fact of how the world teaches people to go to church for their prospects? Think about it. When I moved to Cookeville, I was approached again by an insurance agent. 3 different churches, 3 different insurance agents. Matthew 23:25, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you clean out the outside of the cup, of the dish, but the inside they are full of robbery and self-indulgence. You clean out the inside, but the inside is full of hypocrisy, robbery, and self-indulgence. How do you live your Christian life? Are you serving God? Are you trusting God for everything? Do you depend on God? What if time goes bad? What if you're not able to work? What if the government shuts down? Where will you turn first?